Yes, you can make the most amazing Vietnamese pho noodle soup at home, and you can do it one of two ways. So I have a very traditional, kind of a bit of a journeyman kind of pho noodle soup recipe where we do everything from scratch and we do take the time to simmer for quite a while. But I also have a version for you guys who, like me, kind of need that pho soup hit but maybe don't have the time. So two options for you. I hope you love them both. The most amazing bowls of pho I've ever had always have the most brilliant, beautiful, crystal clear, beefy, fragrant, just amazing broth. It's all about the broth. All right, let's get on to the beef first of all. So you want to head to your supermarket or your butcher, and it'll depend on where you are and what you can get a hold of. But basically, we want some beef bones. Now, I like to go with some bones with a bit of meat on them. So I'm using some short ribs here, and I'm also using some oxtail. Now, oxtail is the important one here because the oxtail also has some really good like gelatinous stuff inside those bony bits. So if you can't get oxtail, try and get beef knuckle. It's kind of the knuckly joint parts of the beef bones that have the gelatin. So you want to mix bones, gelatin, meat, and you should be good to go. All right, so I'm gonna get all of that into my pot. The biggest pot you've got at home would be great. I'm gonna do about 5 liters of water here. So mine's about a 6-liter stock pot. And now in order to get that really beautiful crystal clear color, what we need to do is kind of blanch these bones first and get rid of a whole lot of gunk that's gonna come out of them first up. So pour the water in, just so that they're covered, and then bring this up to a boil and just cook it for like 2 or 3 minutes or until you see a whole bunch of gross stuff on the top. You'll know, trust me. All right, while that's happening, we're gonna char some vegetables. So yes, even the vegetables get the special treatment for this one. Now, I really want to char the outside of these vegetables. So I'm gonna use an open gas flame here. If you've got a gas stovetop, that's great. If you've got a gas barbecue, you could do that outside. Otherwise, just roast these in the oven until they're really nice and black. Now, first up, I want an onion, whole onion, pop it on the flame, and then a whole piece of ginger as well. And what we're looking for here is kind of really burning the outside of these, and then the inside will be nice and sweet and soft. Ooh, that is noisy. Now just keep rotating both of these. Kind of turn the heat down to about medium. I don't want to set the fire alarm off, but I do want, as I said, to get a really nice char on the outside here. It's going to take like 10-15 minutes, so be a little patient. Okay, so I really did mean burn the outside of those vegetables. You can see how charry they are. So just take the onion off first, and then what you want to do is actually take off most of that burnt stuff. So just kind of get your knife in here and just peel that off. And then give that a little bit of a rinse as well. All right, now just slice the onion up. Now same thing for the ginger. So just take off that burnt skin. I can tell that ginger is really nice and soft inside. So this is going to take away kind of that harsh onion or harsh heat from the ginger, so that our broth ends up being infused with a really sweet onion flavor and a sweet ginger flavor. There is method to the madness, don't worry. Okay, just wash that ginger off as well. And then just give that a slice. And then what I like to do here to get even more flavor out of my ginger is just to kind of break it down with a pestle or a rolling pin. All right, so I did warn you about the horror show that was going to be the top of that liquid there. So just what we wanted, and see, this is what we don't want in our broth, and we're getting rid of it. So let's take out those pieces of beef, just get them into some water or just rinse them under a tap. And then let's clean up that pot and start all over again. So clean beef bones, go back in the pot. And now for all the beautiful aromatics that makes a pho broth so special. If you have a look at the spices here, what I've got is some star anise, a cinnamon stick, and some whole cloves. They go in. And then I've always got spring onions kicking around the bottom of my fridge. They just always seem to appear there. So it doesn't matter if they're a little bit over the hill, don't worry about that. Pop those in. And now our softened onion and ginger. And now some fresh water. Now bring this up to a gentle simmer and then let it cook for about 2 hours. And the secret here, my friends, is keep it gentle, keep it nice. Any kind of hard boiling here is going to make our stock really cloudy, and I want a really nice, beautiful color, crystal clear. So just let it do its thing nicely. Okay, so this is smelling truly amazing, my friends. I just, it's incredible how much of the fragrance of the spices and the aromatics you get. I mean, the smell of a beautiful pho broth is truly a joy. Now I did sort of used a ladle and scooped off some of that scummy stuff that rose up to the top just throughout the 2 hours of cooking. So this is what we're left with, and let's keep going because I really need to eat some pho. Smell, I can tell you that. Now I just like to get some of these big bits and pieces out of the way first, because I do want to strain this, but it makes less of a mess if you kind of get these bits out first. Now I am going to keep that bowl of chunky stuff because I'm going to use some of that beef a little later on. In the meantime, let's take a look at our broth. Strain that out. And just look at that beautiful golden color. Oh, perfection. And so now we're in the final stages of making our perfect bowl of pho. Now I want to get this beautiful broth back into a clean pot, and from now on it's all about the setup. So the important part of our broth still to come, and that is the seasoning. So what I want to do is just try this and see where we're at. That star anise fragrance is so beautiful, and then you've got like the background beefiness and then all those other little aromatics in there. Oh, so good. Now, I do want to season with some fish sauce. And look, I find that you really need to aggressively season the broth itself, because we're going to be adding noodles which are unseasoned, we're going to be adding more beef which is unseasoned. So you really want this broth to be the star of the show here. I want a little bit of sugar as well, and then a fairly decent amount of salt here. Okay, let's get that heating up. We're getting there. Just a little bit more salt for my liking. We're going to get that epic pho flavor in record time. So let's start off with a little bit of oil. And the base of the broth is going to be a number of aromatics. First of all, some onion, some garlic, some slices of ginger, and then for that beautiful spice flavor, we've got the star anise and some cinnamon sticks. The secret to achieving the flavor we want really quickly is to make sure we don't skimp on the browning. So we really want to get these beautiful aromatics lovely and golden and really releasing their flavors. Yum, I can really smell that star anise. So star anise is best friends with anything meaty. Anytime you're doing a braise or a stew, add some star anise and it just kind of boosts that meaty umami flavor. Okay, I'm really starting to see some nice color here, and all of those aromatics are smelling beautiful. Okay, time to add in the beef stock. And to really boost that umami flavor, we're going to add some fish sauce and some soy sauce. Now just let that gently simmer and bubble away for 20 minutes. Now it's time to strain that glorious stock. It's a beautiful deep dark color, just what I'm looking for. Alright, so now let's get our meaty bits and pieces all ready. And because I use beef short rib, it means I've got a good opportunity here to use up some of this lovely slow braised beef. Now you won't always get good chunks of meat here, like so say for example if you're using mainly knuckle bones or marrow bones, you won't get that, but if you've used some short rib, you will. And I am all about the fat and gristle, I have to say. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it certainly is mine. And you can see because we've simmered that broth so slowly and gently, we've still got like a nice pink tinge to the meat here, and it's not bone dry, which is good. Now don't worry if you don't have any meat that you can salvage from your bones, because we're also going to use some extra beef on top. So this is just a piece of round steak that I've had in the freezer for about 15 minutes. Putting it in the freezer means that we can slice it really thin far easier than if it was just at room temperature. Now you could use eye fillet here as well. I find the main thing you're going for this cut of beef is you don't want too much fat or connected tissue, and I hardly ever say that because I am such a fat girl when it comes to beef, but if you've got big hunks of fat running through this piece of beef, the hot soup won't be enough to kind of dissolve it and make it really yummy. So just go for one that is all beef. And you want some really thin slices here. So if you pick that up, it should look like a stained glass window. You should be able to see the light. See the light. You should be able to see the light through the beef. So the other all-important part of a pho is the beef. And I like to use beef fillet because it's super tender. And what you want to do is slice it really thin. Now the reason we're slicing it super thin is because we're going to place this onto our noodles and then pour the hot stock over the top, and that's actually going to cook the beef. So you want to make sure the pieces are wafer thin, and to help with that you can actually put the beef into the freezer for about an hour before you slice it. That'll help to firm it up a little bit before you start cutting. Alright, so we are finally at the assembly stage, which means we are nearly there, my friends. We can nearly indulge in our beautiful, perfect bowl of pho. Now what I want you to do here is pretend that you're like Gordon Ramsay and get all really pedantic about the setup, because the setup is everything here. Setup and timing. Alright, so what I've got here are my noodles. I've had them soaking. These are some rice stick noodles, and I've soaked them in just some room temperature water because I want them to soften up and for some of that starchiness to kind of escape out of the noodles. That way we're going to have a really clean, bouncy, snappy noodle in our bowl and not kind of like a soggy noodle. Alright, and then we've got everything else here, our beef. I've got together a little seasoning plate here with some fish sauce and chili and lime and some Thai basil, bean shoots, spring onion, our sliced beef. We're ready to go. So grab yourself a handful. I like to do this bowl by bowl just because I get the right amount of noodle and everything. So noodles go into my rapidly boiling water here. And you want to be quick about this. You want to keep the noodles moving. And literally that was like, I don't know, 10 seconds. Pull them out. Straight into your bowl. Bean shoots, grab a bunch of those into the water. Again, a few seconds only. Pull them out. And I just want a little bit of thinly sliced onion here. And now you want a nice little bundle of some of this raised beef. For me, I like to go for all the little fatty bits, but that's just me. And some of those strips, wafer thin strips of steak. Throw some spring onion on top. And your broth should be bubbling away. I want lots of steam here. It should be like facial time in your kitchen. Pour that on top, pour that over the beef, and you can see the beef changes colour straight away. So it's cooking through there. And that is it, my friends. One legit bowl of Vietnamese pho right there. And when I went to the north of Vietnam, in Hanoi, they would eat their pho completely unadorned, just like this, with a little bit of fish sauce, some lime, and the herbs, which I think if you're going to go the trouble of, you know, making your pho soup from scratch, why not really be able to taste it? So I'm going to leave mine like this, but feel free to add hoisin and sriracha if you like. Now I'm going to add in a couple of chilies, Thai basil, a little squeeze of lime, a little extra fish sauce, because I don't know, here in Asia you always add a little bit of extra fish sauce, or we do in Thailand anyway. And then mix. The other crucial part of a pho is of course the condiments, and I like to get all of mine ready before I serve up my noodle soup. I like to serve it with a little bit of hoisin sauce, some chili paste for an extra spicy kick, some lime wedges, some bean shoots, and Thai basil. So the Thai basil is going to add a beautiful fresh herbaceousness to the soup, which I love. But if you can't find Thai basil, regular basil's okay too.